everyone, Sidewind here, and today I'm going to be recording a tutorial on how to play Age of Empires 4. Age of Empires 4 is currently one of my favorite games, and I am right now at a mid-range Gold 2 level in Team Ranked. But today I'm going to be explaining how you can start playing it. I'm aiming this tutorial at basically just anyone who hasn't played it before. So if you're more experienced in RTS, I'll be giving slightly different suggestions than if you've never heard of RTS games. So to start, I'll explain why my game is in Spanish right now. It's because I'm right now learning the language. So you'll notice that I have it in this because I basically have been using the game's campaigns as practice. However, I'm going to be translating what the different tabs are in the game as we go along. So to start, I recommend that when you first install the game, after you complete the tutorial, you play a little against AI. So the way you find that on this interface is you click one player, single player, which is the un jugador in Spanish, and then skirmish is what the section with the versus AI small games are. And then you'll create a game and it'll load this interface. So if this is your first time playing, I recommend you set this AI, which you will add yourself, to easy difficulty if you have never played an RTS game before. Examples of RTS games are things like StarCraft, Warcraft 3, Supreme Commander, and so on and so forth. Generally, if you have played one of those before, you may want to choose intermediate difficulty. And if you are very, very good at them or want a challenge, basically if you're overconfident, you might try hard or very hard. However, for this demonstration game, I'm going to be setting it to intermediate because it's a difficulty which I can consistently defeat without difficulty. And this is my first time recording and talking about what I'm doing while I'm playing. So then you have to select your civilization. I have an expansion for the game, which adds 6 civilizations that are in this list. However, I'm going to be talking about base game options that you might select as a new player. So the most common new player suggestion civ is British. The main thing that British has going for it is essentially its bonuses are conducive to a small number of strategies, which are very difficult for an enemy player to counter. I am actually bad at playing Brit, but I deal with fighting them a lot because they are the most commonly played civ in 1v1 and team. But basically, if you want a civilization with a simple tactic that you can just execute and learn to execute, then you should probably pick Brit. In general, their tactics, from what I can tell, don't require a whole lot of adjustment on their part. If you want specific build orders for any of these civs, really, you can go to popular YouTubers, which those are things like BCQT, StarCraft, for English language, or Vortex for Spanish language. The next civ, which a lot of people mention for beginners, is French. So French is basically a civ that has a couple of very powerful units, but it is a civ which most people do know how to counter. So it's got very powerful knights, which they can produce cheaper using a second age landmark. These landmarks are used to essentially level up. In addition, France has faster producing villagers, powerful artillery, and an upgrade for their crossbows, which counter heavy armor units. Then the last 2 civs I'm going to mention for beginners are the ones I actually have some familiarity with. One is the Holy Roman Empire. This is usually abbreviated HRE in English. So the main thing that HRE has is you start with a prelate, which is their replacement for priests. And this prelate is used to both improve your economy and to heal your units. They get this 2 ages earlier than most other civs. In addition, once you hit castle, you gain access to essentially very powerful man-at-arms, and you have a landmark which gives you passive generation of gold, which can be very good if you are doing their most common tactic, which is basically just pumping out man-at-arms. The most common tactics for HRE are using their improved economic capacity to speed along and hit one of the later ages before their opponent. This is usually countered with a heavy aggression strategy, so if you are choosing Holy Roman and playing against players, you should be prepared in a team game to be the target of attacks. The last beginner civ I'm going to mention is actually the one which I play, and which I played from the start of the game. It is the Abbasid Dynasty. The Abbasid Dynasty has a lot of unique mechanics, and in this video it's what I'll be showing because I've been playing it since Season 1, when it was much weaker than it is now. So then I'm going to start the game, and it'll load into this interface showing the map that is set and the victory conditions, which are either destroy your enemy, control the sacred sites, or defend a wonder. The wonder is a building that you can build in the last stage, which is very, very expensive, but can win the game for you. Then you can click play on the interface screen to start your game. So when I'm starting a game, I usually start by going for berries as Abbasid. That's because berries gather faster for Abbasid and a few other civs that do not have access to board. Those civs are Delhi and any variant civs of Abbasid, which is an expansion feature. Then I send out my scout to find sheep. Sheep are found across the map and provide access to additional food. By gathering them, you also deny your opponent of access to them. Then I start building my House of Wisdom and my mine building. This makes it so that my villagers can drop off gold without walking a significant distance. Then, because I'll need population for essentially continuing to build villagers, because you always want to be producing villagers, I'm going to build my house and then keep on scouting, while the two go from building the house and then straight to building the mine. My next few villagers will go to the mill, where they will gather food from the berries. As you can see, the villager slowly fills up their capacity, and then when they reach max, they deliver it back to their closest drop-off building. Once I have 8 villagers on food, I start sending villagers to gold. This is because gold and food are the two resources needed for getting to the next era. This is essentially how you level up. Sort of like how in an RPG you gain new abilities. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go for the culture wing, as it's called. The culture wing essentially makes it so that you can advance through the ages quicker. However, there are other options as Abbasid. Most other civs build what are called landmarks, using their villagers to advance in age. But Abbasid advances without using villagers, solely using this building, the House of Wisdom. So the choices of wings that you can build to advance to feudal for Abbasid, and these are the same options for every era, and the texts are available the same. Doesn't matter what order you unlock them in. Are the trade wing, which gives access to upgrades for your trade. The culture wing, which gives, essentially, it lets you age up quicker initially by making resource costs for technologies, including advancing in age, cheaper. And it also unlocks at the last age a conversion feature Then there's military wing, which improves your military units. At first, it does this by providing extra hit points for all your infantry units. And then after that point, it begins unlocking faster firing for your archers and then a buff for your infantry using the unique unit of Abbasid, which is the camel units. The last wing available is the economic wing, which is oftentimes the most commonly picked because it improves your economy by making it so that the cost of your economic buildings and houses, which are needed for expanding, are lower. The other popular early wing is the military wing. And then at later ages, that economic wing makes it so that you can essentially build up more. It makes it so that your farmers gather quicker, giving you access to more food, and it makes it so that your villagers give you more resources. And you'll notice that now I've started to gather wood resources. That's because Abbasid gains power by building more buildings. It's why I recommend the Civ for new players, because the abilities of Abbasid essentially are just encouraging you to do what you should already be doing. As soon as I reach the next age here, I'm going to immediately start this technology called Fresh Food. It makes your villager costs cheaper. And I am also going to start the unique tech in the House of Wisdom, called Preservation of Knowledge. This tech makes it so that my future technology research is lower, which will enable me to get more quicker. And at this point, I'm putting all my new villagers on wood, because wood is going to be needed to trigger the bonuses of Abbasid, shown here. These are called Golden Ages, and as you advance farther and farther, it gives you more and more abilities. The first abilities activated are just faster resource gathering, but then it gives faster technology research, and finally, it gives you faster unit training. And you can see, as soon as that preservation of knowledge technology finished, I immediately started researching more of the technologies available. That's because my goal here is to advance my gathering rate to a higher level, at which point I'll be able to essentially outproduce the opponent. And here, this is something the intermediate AI does that players will also make the mistake. If you have villagers near your town center, basically if you're gathering off sheep, like most other civs do, you can run all your villagers inside using this button, which is called find safety, essentially, and they run into the building. Garrison spots. The main town center has 15 spots, a tower has 5, and secondary town centers have, I believe it's 7. And here I'm building the tower so that I can start having more vision and know if an enemy is coming to try and, say, kill my villagers. These are more important when you're playing against players, because players are unpredictable. In this case, the AI is actually quite predictable. However, I do not recommend trying to play players unless you can beat at least the hard AI, because the hard AI is about equivalent to a lower rank player. Now, if you have no problem with repeatedly losing, you can immediately go against players. But it tosses you in against players at my level, not at players at the lowest level. And you can see here, I just activated my Golden Age, which will speed up my gathering rate for all my villagers. Now I'm going to send these villagers to gather off a separate berry bush, although this is a very risky tactic that I don't necessarily advise. I'm doing it because I'm trying to get that food quicker and hit the Castle Age, which is the next opportunity, early. And you can see here now I have a steady flow of wood and other resources. Then at the mine I am getting gold. And right there, I just found the enemy AI, who is just now beginning to reach the second age. And that is about the time for intermediate AI. Hard AI usually reaches it about little after when I did, and very hard AI usually hits around 3 minutes, 30 seconds. Which means that it's something that even better players sometimes can't beat for my level. Then you can see here I'm just scouting out the rest of the map and figuring out where things are. Some things you might be noting are these weird circle things. These are sacred sites. If you take all of the ones on the map and hold them for 10 minutes, then you win the game. Thus, you may want to take them as soon as you're able, which is Castle Age for all civs except the Delhi Sultanate. The Delhi Sultanate can take those sacred sites and age early, which can enable them to essentially claim everything earlier than everyone else, and force the enemy to counter you. And you can see here I'm beginning to build up military fortifications and things to produce troops. That's because as soon as I hit castle, I'm going to be using that to continue on forward. And I'm probably going to end this quickly. In this game, I'm going to go for the military wing to get to the age after this. However, against players, I usually go for the trade wing because I usually use the trade bonuses of Abbasid far more. I also normally play team games, where trade is more useful. And one thing to note is that whenever you're playing a civ that's going to essentially, whenever you're getting ready to attack, you want to build up a large number of these troop production buildings, because the most popular strategies all rely on replacing what you lose, rather than essentially trying to keep them alive, especially for Abbasid, because your troops are very replaceable. And the other unique thing Abbasid has is they can build siege in the field without having researched the technology at the blacksmith. And you can also build additional things in the field, those being mangonels, which are good against large groups of units, especially archers, and spring bullets, which counter other siege. And you can hear that whistle sound. It essentially means that two scouts have spotted each other, which can be especially important if you're worried about the scout attacking you, which can be dangerous only with the Civ Mali. Every other Civ scouts cannot actually really kill anything. And at this point, I've been building a lot of archers, so I'm using a lot of wood, meaning I'll probably need to get more people on it. And as soon as you hit the next stage, you see these new technologies unlocking. These make your units better. So what I'm going to do in this new archery range is immediately start that upgrade. And I'm going to begin going for the AI's base. And the key to all of this is just you keep producing anything you have and get anyone who's idle back to work. And you may be seeing some lag right now. That is because my computer is not normally running a game and the recording software. Usually the lag does not happen. And since I got to the military wing, I'm going to begin researching these two technologies. And I think you can see the one problem with building a ram back at base. Like, look how slow they're moving. Whereas if I tell one to just run, it quickly outpaces the ram. So in general, you do want to build siege as close to your opponent as you can get it. And you can also see me building these lumber camps closer and closer to where the trees are as the trees are cut away. That's an important thing to keep doing, especially as Abbasid, because it builds up your number of buildings and makes it so that you can keep getting your villagers with less walking distance, because the walking distance is very important. Another very important tech is the one that was in this spot, which was called wheelbarrow. I researched this as soon as I got my ability. Now you can see I've approached the enemy base. I'm going to start building up even more siege. And usually for Abbasid, I don't build siege workshops because I'm constantly doing what I am. And you'll note that every time my villagers run out of food at the location they were gathering, I immediately send them to another gather location. I always have a group running around and gathering, but from what I know, most people transition to using farms at this point of the game. And there is also the other technology I started researching here called supervision techniques, which makes it so that your villagers end up gathering from all of these deer quicker. And deer are faster than almost any other gather source in the game. In some cases, fish can be faster. However, this is a land map, so there is no water. And you can see here I finished a couple of rams in the mangonel. So I'm now going to attack with the rams first because they have a tower there. And the tower will shoot my units. Now the key whenever you're attacking in this game is to target villagers. Like you can notice how I'm immediately going for the gathered villagers. And this unit of Ottoman, the horse unit, it counters archers. And I think you can also see right now that the pathfinding isn't the best. And that is just a scout throwing a notification. It's nothing to be concerned about. You will see random notifications thrown by scouts. And as soon as I knock down that tower, I immediately start going for the town center. You can see there that the AI had built up an army, but it had only built up a small army. Now, usually one thing that players do that you're not seeing here is that they will pull their villagers out of the town center at this point and start attacking your rams. Villagers counter rams quite well and deal a lot of damage to them. So to deal with that, that's why I have this group of archers here, because the archers can shoot right back. You can see here that the AI is not good at, this AI is not good at using the villagers. Once you go up one more difficulty, they get better at it. I do think you can also notice now that the town center isn't doing much against the rams. And there, the town center is down. And then to finish the game, because I'm going to just end it now, is I can just destroy this building. This is their other landmark. You can usually distinguish landmarks by they won't be in more than one place in a base. But as soon as that landmark is destroyed, then I win this game. So if anyone has particular questions on the basics of Age of Empires, please ask them in the comments. I might be able to make another video on this game if you guys want it. And thank you for watching.